the people I just named are still people that really heavily influenced me and people that I still look up to.
I noticed though that a lot of them weren't from the music genres. They were that was more specific to the art, and I can't help but think a lot of graffiti writers hold that mystique. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely. I mean, the crews were crazy, even in LA, because you got gang politics and all kind of things, and you would end up in a crew, and it would have people from rival gangs in it, and
Mm.
you'd have like a a Rasta dude from off of Crenshaw in the crew, and then you might have like a sharp, like a skinhead against racial prejudice in the crew, and then
Hmm.
like two dudes that be considered cholos in the group, and it would just be a surfer. Like everybody would be in the crew because you didn't really know who was who. Like you would see the name, you go to the yard or
Wow.
somewhere, and see the name up, and you'd be like, "That's dope," and then you meet him, it's like, "That's you." Like, where?
Damn.
And so you get, yeah, the graffiti crews were like some of the most honest families
Yeah.
ever because they weren't. It was really about like we're here, we're connected through style, and you're my brother, you're my crew member,
Yeah.
and then that was that.
Killa Kela podcast. KillaKelaOfficial.com.
Street Culture TV.
Beatbox created.
Killa Kela.
And we're here to talk about world music and street culture.
Killa Kela podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, Killa Kela podcast, live and direct, central London, or as central as you could be, choose to be. You don't want to be anywhere else, baby. You believe that? Okay, people, our sponsors, the mighty GK Nifty Heads, have 10,000 play to earn GraffPunks NFTs to give away. Get ready as London's white trash goes blockchain digital with Bitcoin Cash tokens locked into them to claim. Get yourselves over to the website gkniftyheads.com and play to earn now. And we're global transatlantic travelers over here. And we're heading over to the west coast of California to meet up with a gentleman that not only helped spark my career, but inspired many a generation. An artist within the community of hip-hop. When we talk Rocksteady, Zulu Nation, when we talk about the fundamentals and what became pivots and pillars of the LA scene, collaborating with so many different artists is a plethora. It's a lot of people. Do the Googling, you'll find out yourself, but more importantly, part of Dilated People, the three-piece Joe that took on the world. And yeah, working the angles ever since. Goes by the name of Rakaa Iriscience.
Yeah. What up, family? Great to see you. Great to see you. Thanks for inviting me.
We're talking, well, we got on stage together probably around 99, perhaps, on a tour, wasn't it? Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, definitely late 90s for sure. Something in that zone.
I mean, this was an informative, almost pioneering time. It was like hip hop had its new wave of anti-commercialism, but that was just through process, because it's almost like LA was creating these almost like band units of rap groups. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it was definitely a pivotal time especially for LA, and it was also around the time that you started seeing people step forward and show that it was more than, no disrespect to G-Funk or anything else that was happening out here, but to
Mm.
show that there was definitely some of the traditional hip hop culture in LA, that there are definitely people that were tied in directly to the roots, people that were doing it the way that they were raised and wanted to show and prove. And we didn't really get a great deal of support from the labels and media early on. So that
Mm.
forced us to really develop community and develop connections. And when it came back around, it was too strong to ignore. So yeah, shout out to everybody doing their thing at that time. And not just LA too. I mean, around the world. Like as we were traveling around the world, we found people that were really of the same mindset. Like, let's just do it the way we were raised to do it, but do it for today.
Yeah.
Represent the culture as we were raised, but do it for today.
It was power to the people. It was a rule. Like you say, there was people beforehand, and this is me, obviously, from the outside looking in, like the rest of us here. But that you had the Cypress Hills, your
Of course.
alcoholics, your Far Sides. I mean,
Yeah,
they were still holding down that West Coast boom bap, right?
for sure. Absolutely. And that's, Dilated, our group is always really closely tied in with Soul Assassins, the person who really gave us our first record deal or our first major label pass, I guess, entry into the major label scene was DJ Lethal from House of Pain. So we came up in the Soul Assassins family, and at the same time, we were also really connected with Liquid Crew. We're Liquid Crew affiliates. That's Family Alcoholics, King T,
Yeah.
um, the Barbershop, Defari, Exhibit, Loot Pack. It was so many people doing their thing. So
Oh, yeah, man. Jesus. I mean, just running off those names. Razkaz. Oh.
shout out to Razzie. Yeah, for sure. Razzie, still one of the greatest to ever breathe on a microphone, man. Raz is
Real talk. Yeah, he's been on podcasts
still
as
to this
well.
day.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
my guy
Still
for sure.
killer, man.
Exhibit, Sophia, Loot
The
Pack,
fear, yeah,
Roscoe. These
absolutely.
guys, they all came around the same. Like you say, it was a huge leap forward, wasn't it? In back, what I guess backpack hip hop, would you call it?
I mean, that's what it was called. A lot of it was called backpack hip hop. It's like the same thing I probably today is saying boom bap hip hop or whatever the case is. But yeah, I would say that. I mean, but then you also had people like shout out to Farside, um, Freestyle Fellowship. Of
Ooh,
course, up north you had, in a similar fashion, up north is known for, maybe Too Short and different people like that,
Souls of
E40.
Mischief and
But then you have people like Dell and Souls of Mischief coming in, the whole
yeah.
hieroglyphics crew coming in casual and, you know, uh, extra prolific and everybody coming in to show that, there's that direct cultural connection as well as
Mm,
representing where you're from. So, we're just a part of that wave. We saw people coming before us and thankfully there are people that came after us and we're still here
yeah.
doing it. We're still here talking today about it.
Yeah,
So love,
mate.
man.
This smile is the smile of nostalgia because I'm
Yeah.
remembering now. Um, if my memory serves me correctly, Vadim and us came over to LA and we performed at a particular venue. I can't remember the name of the venue, but I think you performed at it too. I'm almost certain you
That
did,
sounds
bro.
familiar. That sounds really it's crazy how much how many little things I remember and how many other things are like a big blur to me.
Yeah.
But
It's
yeah,
almost like you need
that
company of
sounds.
people to remind you who and where and what you were doing.
I need to pull it up on YouTube or something. But yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. I think so. I've definitely done some things with Vadim. The record I did, War, the song War that I do, that was originally something that Vadim was doing for the UN. And I remember he called me. He's like, "Yo, I got to
Wow.
do this project for the United Nations. I need you to come in and do something." So I went in and did War, and then that project got scrapped. But I ended up
Hold on. So
keeping the
what
song.
this was a song that didn't come up but was called War and it was
Yeah,
for
well, it
UN.
didn't. Yeah, it was originally Vadim called me to ask me to do a song for this project he was doing in conjunction with the UN, some kind of UN collaboration, United Nations collaboration,
Wow.
maybe like arts and culture or something. I'm not sure,
Wow.
but he asked me to do the record. I ended up going and recording the record, which was just a kind of a freestyle slam poem almost kind of song called War. And then later and I started that record ended up not coming out. Whatever the project was that he was doing with the UN ended up not coming out. So I ended up keeping the material and started performing that live a cappella at shows. And
Wow.
the response was so great that I ended up recording a version of it with Questlove from the Roots for I think it was the Expansion Team album. So it's to this day, now what 20 something years later,
Yeah.
maybe a long, yeah, 20 some years later, I still perform it at almost every show.
Wow. Jeez. Well, that's the
Yeah,
power of word, isn't it? That's the power of
absolutely.
the concept. We'll definitely get into more of the collaborations and albums as we go on in here. But you know, the irony, well, the poeticness of a tune being called War never came out, part of the UN. Yeah, the way the
Yeah,
world is in 2025, because well, whenever you're listening to this, ladies and gentlemen, it could be any time, anywhere, any space. But you're on the ground over there at the moment, and the news, is well, it's speaking volumes at the moment globally of what's going on over in LA at the moment and California as a whole. I mean, from LA,
right.
the fires that have gone on over there. I mean, it's really easy for us to watch and okay, that's the news there, in and out, in and out. It's like saloon doors, but if you're
Yeah.
actually living it, this nightmare doesn't go away, does it?
No, it's really a heavy situation, man. You can, and they say sometimes you can walk in the room and the tension is palpable, or you could feel the energy in the room. Well, that's how the whole city feels right now. There's definitely a blanket of anxiety over the whole city. Um, there's a lot of anger. There's a lot of pain,
Mm.
sadness, frustration. People aren't really sure what's going to happen, and it's kind of scary, man. It's a scary situation just to see the amount of people that are affected by this, and people still having to navigate the rhetoric and the propaganda and everything else that's helping to fuel it. So
Mm.
yeah, it's scary, man. It's a scary time.
Yeah, and there must be people, within a few degrees of separation that are feeling the pressure, feeling the pain, whether it's the
Oh,
house
not even a
burnt.
few degrees. I mean,
Really?
yeah, no, very close to home. Like family members. Like it's a crazy thing, because you're dealing with profiling. You're dealing
Yeah.
with the mentality of kind of like a net mentality, like just throw the net, and whatever you catch, you catch. Anybody that accidentally gets caught up in it is collateral. You're dealing with disrespect of hardworking people, and to be fair, immigration, no matter where you are, whether you're in LA or anywhere else in the United States or anywhere else in the world, it's a complicated issue. It's an emotional issue. It
For sure.
affects different people in different ways and at different levels. So yeah, it is complicated and it is tough, but decency and humanity and basic respect, those things aren't complicated. Those things aren't tough. So, to have a situation where, um, people seem to have lost humanity and people are being moved around like pawns. People are being used for political gain,
Yeah.
at the expense of those people's life, livelihood, families, at the
Mm.
expense of, business, at the expense of community. Like it's crazy. It's a bad situation.
Oh man, it changes the social community makeup, doesn't it? The whole idea that has suddenly come into to play is unthinkable. If that ever happened to London, I mean, you're taking the heartbeat out of a city.
Yeah, you're removing the rhythm. You're taking away the spice, like the things that make it beautiful, that make it special. Um, and like I said, you're bypassing humanity and human decency and basic respect for people. Um, and it's really it's really telling, when you look at some of the people that are really at the helm of this. They themselves are immigrants or products of or descendants of direct descendants of immigrants.
That
And
that did cross my mind a couple of times when read.
yeah,
It's true.
yeah, absolutely. So
Wow.
you know it's a you can feel the hypocrisy, you can feel the agenda,
Mm.
you can feel the prejudice, um, classism,
Mm.
in many cases racism. You can feel that in the policy, in the implementation, the heavy-handed implementation,
Mm.
and you can see who's cheerleading it and why when you look to the side and see who's happy about it.
Mm.
This is a situation that there's nobody that should be happy about, seeing families ripped apart and, people looking for a better life like
Mm.
some of these other people's families did, that are not being respected.
Mm.
There's no, due process being suspended and applied, uh, not being applied, in the case of these people, and maybe even people forgetting that they're people. Like I
Yeah.
think that's one of the things. So you deal with LA, um, and a lot of places in the states and around the world. You're dealing with people that have put out the brochure like this is the place to be. This is beautiful. The American brochure.
Mm.
Is bring me your tired, your huddled masses, and your this and your that, and they romanticize
Yeah.
people coming from overseas and making their way. And I think when you look at, yeah, of course, in any situation there's criminals in government right now,
Mm.
so you can't say that any group of people are going to be crime free. But if you look at the statistics, the vast majority of the people that are being targeted and being harassed are hardworking, law-abiding citizens,
Yeah.
even beyond what a typical U.S. citizen would do. Like they're appreciative, they're happy, they're working hard, and they just want a better life. So, I mean, it's complicated, but decency and humanity and respect are not complicated. So that's how I feel about it.
With with LA, like you say, that there is, I guess it is the American dream. It's the American brochure, the penultimate, you know. In comes, technology that threatens the livelihoods of people that work in the entertainment world. Then comes the fires. Then comes ice and all these different. My goodness, I mean, it's just hit after hit after hit.
Yeah.
Where do you think this is all? Where does it all? Where's this timeline end to? I mean, is it the Olympics? I mean, what's the real motivation that's carrying these things through?
I mean, ultimately, I think it comes down to, like anything else, it comes down to big business. It comes down to money.
Yeah,
It comes down to control. And I think when you have uh, a group of people that look at themselves as above other people,
yeah,
then any kind of pushback from the people that you feel are below you, you feel you have the right to crush. You don't feel like you have to listen until you have to listen.
mm,
Um, I feel like in general, a lot of what's gone on in the world has to do with big business, even in the sense that, let's say you you're a company, you decide to go public. So now you're not making decisions for yourself. You have to
mm,
answer to shareholders.
mm-hmm.
And these shareholders are hiding behind brokers or behind their computer screens, so they just want to see their investment grow. They don't want to hear about who's getting hurt in the process.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to hear about the environment. They don't want to hear about humanity. They want to hear about profits.
Yeah,
So they put people in charge that are willing to do that. And so you have, sociopaths or even psychopaths that are running, major businesses, and they have no problem doing whatever they want to do.
mm-hmm.
They have no fear of social retribution. So it is what it is. And then the other thing about it is you have, it went from a few channels, a few media outlets where if you said or did something that was outside of the lines, there were going to be repercussions because you had to deal with sponsors, advertisers.
Mm,
Um, the court of public opinion was very focused and narrow. Now for better or for worse, we have almost unlimited media outlets. So
mm,
you have people that are now like, I can say and do whatever I want to do. And one of those things, like in advertising, is you specialize. You don't try to appeal to everyone. You
yes,
try to figure out one narrow market and appear and lock them in. So yeah, you're not gonna get 8 billion subscribers. But if you get 8,000 subscribers or 80,000 subscribers or
yeah, the
whatever
most
the case is,
hardcore,
just
yeah,
they'll support you. They might kick in $1 a month, you know what I mean, or whatever the case is on
mm,
your socials, or buy a t-shirt every so often here and there. And now all of a sudden you're getting rich and you don't feel the need to switch it up because now you feel like you have a responsibility to appeal to your base. So, you deal with all that. And then but I always look, I mean, as somebody, I have a degree in advertising. That's what I went to school for. I
really,
was originally an
oh,
architect. Yeah,
incredible.
originally I was in architecture and ended up switching my major at some point and going into advertising. But one thing I can say is like the same people that are selling you soap and boxes of cereal and new cars are writing political campaigns. They
Yeah,
hire the best people that know how to push the buttons
mm,
and know how to move product, and they're just pushing agenda in the same way that they would push a new box of cereal.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's kind of the real American way, isn't it?
It seems to be, yeah, man. I mean, despite what it says, like that's what it breaks down to on a practical level. And I think
Oh,
that there are a lot of other people that that miss a time when whatever they said went. What I say goes. I'm the big guy on the block. I'm the bully of the block. And now, the power is less centralized. So
Yeah.
yeah, you have a lot of people that are longing for the power days, and other people that are getting rich doing this. So you have a prison industrial complex. You have a military complex. You have financial, the financial world, the whole industry of finance, and you have all these people that they don't really care who wins. They might get paid on both sides. They just get paid during the conflict. So as long
Mm.
as there's conflict, they're winning.
Yeah. Totally, totally. Hip hop has always been the news, or at least that's the theory. You came up from a time. I mean, wow, you were around from the beginning of hip hop, and being into advertisement as well, and knowing the kind of that behavior, and being so prevalent in hip hop. Your brand, Rakaa Iriscience. How heavy on the heart is it that you know all of this, and you know that hip hop is the news, more broadly speaking, for a lot of information to get passed out? It must be quite heavy to summarize that as an artist yourself and kind of filter that lot through.
Yeah, I mean, as a conscious person, as somebody that wants the best for the world, as somebody that has friends and family from all parts of the world, that live in all parts of the world, that have different ideologies, um, it is difficult to see, negative propaganda uh, be so easily spread, so quickly spread. It's difficult to see people that don't really have the patience to do, or the attention span in some cases, to do the research themselves. So they thrive off of headlines, and
Yeah, rather doing their
that
own due
becomes the news.
diligence.
Whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, without doing their due diligence, without going deeper, it becomes like headline information, like whatever, and that's just there to catch people. Like it's a clickbait world right now.
yeah,
It's crazy to see how easily people's buttons get pressed, and how easily they can get triggered,
yeah,
to the point where, one person who you don't know, and you don't know anything about them, can make a comment, and next thing you know, it's turning into a whole nother thing, like the snowball effect of it just getting bigger and bigger as it rolls. So
yeah.
it's, it is a little bit scary to see, but all you can do is just, stay in the game, keep fighting the good fight, keep connecting with people. So in real life, you can show and prove how it's supposed to be, despite what's being promoted on, maybe on
Yeah,
social
yeah,
media, or
yeah.
whatever the case may be.
It's totally, totally, because that's just another tool of distraction. Rocker has always been the positive mindset of lyricism, and your articulation, the way that you deliver things. Going back to the war track, that does not surprise me for 1 second. You know what I mean? That you have to turn that
Right.
thing upside down and inside out without the beat and just go. You make songs your own, and there are very few artists out there that have that identifiable voice that people can, it's the voice of trust. It's the sign of guarantee. Positivity has always been, it's always, to me, always been your output. But where did it all start, Ruff? Where did it all begin?
It's hard to say, man. I mean, I think because I didn't start in rap music. I started in graffiti art, and then I moved from graffiti to DJing, and then I ended up rapping. So it gave me a broader view, I think, of the culture. I mean, I've said it many times. There are plenty of graffiti artists when I was growing up that weren't even into rap music. They were
Mm.
into Slayer and Megadeth, or they were into reggae, or they were into Bad Brains and Fishbone,
Big
or
up, big up,
whatever
downset,
the
big up,
case.
downset.
Big up Downset, yeah. Shout UTI, shout out to the whole
Yeah,
Downset crew.
UTI crew, come on.
But yeah, shout out to UTI. My man Monstro, I just did a record with Monstro called Natives from UTI. So shout out to Stro.
Sick.
Um,
Nice.
but yeah, no, it's one of those things where I grew up, and I had maybe a different mentality, a different understanding of the culture and how diverse and outside of rap music, how diverse and multicultural and beautiful the experience was. So that made me look at what I was doing from that, through those lenses. At the same time, it's nothing too complicated. Like, I just felt like if I'm writing rhymes, if I'm in the studio,
Mm.
if I'm making records, making albums, making videos, that I'm creating a world,
Yeah.
and as much as I might speak to one aspect or one world that I'm living in, I understand that I have the opportunity to create a world myself. And that
Mm.
world, I want to speak positivity into existence. I want to be able to bring forth the light that I want to see and
Mm.
shine the light that I need. And that's what I did. So, I might be speaking on things or reacting to things, but more often than not, that positivity comes from just wanting to create the
Yeah.
world that I want to live in.
Positivity in its core. Some people don't swear on record, but they don't realize they're not swearing. It's just one of those things
Yeah.
that they're in your DNA, right? That you're either about or you're
Yeah.
not about.
Yeah. I mean, I don't ever feel the need to be gratuitous. Somebody reached out and they're like, yeah, well, you say the N word in your rhymes. I was like, nah, I don't. As I thought about it, I was like, not even once,
Mhm.
never in
Fam, I've
anywhere.
never heard you
Uh,
say
uh,
that.
yeah, it's not even part of, like, I don't. That's not even. And they're like, really? They're like, what about? They're like,
Wow.
nah, you did. What about? You know, do I curse every once in a while? But it's not a situation where I feel like I need to. Like,
Yeah.
I just speak from the heart, and I don't feel like I need to introduce shock value to try to grab people. I'll let the energy do that. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Yeah. I mean, breaking graffiti. I mean, you me definitely share a similar kind of time of travel where that's concerned. Like it's the full 360 culture.
yeah,
And not a lot of God, I'm gonna throw it out there, okay? Don't hit me on the comments. But not a lot of MCs really, they've worked within that playground of all the different art form aspects in play. Even you're talking about like heavy metal and rock and roll, punk, but that also leans into skateboarding. I'm sure there was a lot of that at one stage or
yeah.
another. So it's street culture. Like I don't quite understand why artists who are into hip hop don't walk it how they talk it. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. But I just come from an era, like when I was coming up, like the Beastie Boys were like a punk group, and you had, you know, this punk group hanging out with this punk group, and they're all meeting at this gallery to look at a graffiti show, or
Yeah.
they're touring together, and the Clash is working with it. Like it's one of those things where it was just raw energy, and you wanted to be different, you wanted to be flavorful. You didn't want to
Mm,
separate yourself, you wanted to say, I want to bring this to that stage too. And
yeah.
that's with Dilated, we've always been able, so we could go tour with, we've toured with D'Angelo,
Yeah.
and we toured with Rage Against the Machine. We toured with,
Woo.
Jurassic 5, and we toured with Public Enemy. Like, it's just, we feel like we could rock with anybody and do anything, and that just comes from seeing it done before, like seeing people come out and say,
Yeah.
okay, this is a rock show, we're gonna rock it.
Yes,
This
yes,
is a
yes,
hip hop
yes.
show, that's fine. Like, but it's a crowd, and we're gonna rock this crowd, and we're gonna bring our flavor to this crowd,
Yes.
and let's see how it goes. So that
That's
was
what
our
it's all
mentality.
about. And I think maybe the music translates dilated. Right, I'm gonna throw it out there again. When I used to think about the ultimate hip hop tune, I always thought of Know the Ledge, Eric B. and Rakim.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Are you just my default? Yeah, that's the hip hop tune. If I was to send any tune somebody's way and say, well, this is hip hop in a tune, but
yeah.
I changed my mind, and it was only recently I went back to work the angles, and I was like,
Oh
yeah,
wow.
this is like this is, and I'm not just saying it because you're on here, my brother. It's for me, it's the hip hop
Appreciate it.
tune. It's the hip hop tune. It's that tune.
Thank
It's,
you,
it's
man.
replaced Know the Ledge. That in my mind.
It caught us by surprise, doing the record, and the response from that record was so authentic and so powerful. But it, we, at the time that we put that out, we didn't have a machine behind us. We didn't have you know, big PR people and people working videos and working radio and none of that. You know, we had relationships with some DJs. We sent it to some DJs, but it was really one of those things where we wanted to do another record that really represented our energy and how we saw that things should be. Like this is, you know, you look at the board and say, okay, I see everything that's up here. So here's what we're going to bring to this table so that we're not being redundant, but where it still fits and the flavor still works with everything that's going on. I think a big part of where we succeeded was we made records with beats, rhymes, and cuts. Like that was what it was. But at the same time, we invested in our mixing and our mastering and making sure that sonically it could rock with anybody. So then it just came down to taste. Like if you like beats, rhymes, and cuts, then there's no reason not to rock with us because that's what we're bringing to the table. But we're doing it at the highest possible level.
Yeah, evidence echoed that sentiment about wanting to get really. I mean, he's been on the podcast, but I listened to the Boldy James tune. All of that said, and he said, you know, I just wanted to stay in the studio and grow the kids. It was almost like, you know, respectfully, it was like To an Obsession. Just wanted that sound exactly right, and that holds true when going back to those original records, man.
Yeah, no, and Ev is right. You know, especially Ev. He's a studio rat, man. He loves the studio. You know, at the time, I was like this. You know, I was the one that was like, "Let's go out, let's go rock these shows." And I think the fact that he was always pulling me into the studio, and I was always pulling him out onto the road. And then when we linked with Babu, which was right around the time of Work the Angles, like that, I'd already known Babu. We'd already been cool, but Babu, he joined the group like right around the time that we were working on Work the Angles. Excuse me, right after we worked on Work the Angles, he was like officially a group member.
Gotcha.
That's why Revolution is the one that did the cuts on Work the Angles in the studio.
That's it. And big up Babu, by the way. Beat Junkies, hold tight.
Absolutely. Shout out to Beat Junkies, Beat Junkie Institute of Sound.
Yes, but, absolutely. Yeah. Very, very briefly before continuing. I have a fanboy question with Revolution on the cuts, right? With Revolution on the cuts, like those there's too many moments within those sequences of cuts. How many takes did he have? This could be like spilling beans.
You know, Revolution is a machine, man. Like that dude is he's like a cyborg. I don't know. He goes in there. He's very intense. You know, that's my brother right there. That's family. But when it's time for him to work, I don't remember exactly how long it took him to do it, but I wouldn't have expected it took him very long, man. I think he probably knocked it out in like a take or two, just because he was probably like, he listened to it. He's like, I know exactly what I'm gonna do.
So he did it at his own studio or something. He did it at his own studio.
I don't think he did it. I don't remember, man. Like we're going back to the 90s at this point. It's all a blur, but I don't remember where he recorded it. I don't remember, but I'm just saying, in working with him over the years on his projects and on other things, he's just one of those people that he's just going to knock it out. Like he's a perfectionist, but he's also super mathematical and super sharp. So I don't remember exactly, but I don't think it took him very long to knock those out. I think he already went in there and was like, "This is what I need to do. Let me listen to it a couple of times. All right, turn me up," and probably just knocked it out.
It's shit like that. I mean, it literally sounded like it was bottled. This was like I said, there's so many moments. It's almost like listening to Eddie Van Halen on a record. It's like, what the hell just happened there?
Yeah, wow. And Rev is nice live too. He could do those same things live too, and Babu is a little more jazzy. Like his flow is a little more wild. So
that's what we love.
But he can do those cuts live. Like because those cuts are so musical. Like they're such an important and big part of the song that Babu knows how to bring out that same energy when he's doing those cuts live.
In his own style.
That song. We still perform it today. And Babs could take the essence of what Rev was doing, what Rev did, and do it his way, and it still fits and it works perfectly. So shout out to both of them for sure.
Big shout out to both of them. Big shout out to Evidence. I mean, there was because we won't be too much longer, my brother. But
Oh, good. I'll take your time.
well, there was a documentary, and you were on it. I can't remember what documentary it was. I picked, you know, you go down these YouTube wormholes, and this was many moons ago as well, and it's always stuck with me. It was a recording of you being interviewed behind the tent of Glastonbury. I don't think it was a
Wow.
Dilated People's show, no. I think it might have been the same year that I was at Glastonbury. If this was with Vadim, I can't remember. But you asked the question to the audience who would be watching the documentary. You said,
Okay.
"Who do your idols idolize?"
Right.
Do you remember saying
Right.
anything of that nature?
I remember saying that. I don't remember this exact thing. I might have been if it wasn't a Dilated show, then I was probably out there with Jurassic 5 because I was on
Exactly.
tour with
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, that's the one.
But yeah, no, that's a really serious question. Like
Yeah. So
you're
I'm
looking up
asking
to
you that.
people. Who do they look up to?
Yeah, I'm asking you that. Who do your idols idolize? Who do you idolize, Rucker?
Oh man, um, that's a tough one, man. It's a tough one. That's a good one too.
The kid's been waiting to ask you this one for like the last.
Yeah, no, that's real. For a long time, it would be people that were doing what I wanted to do. So it would have been a KRS-One, a Chuck D, people, Rakim, people that were able to educate,
Yeah.
people that were able to bring enlightenment while entertaining people and doing it that way. And I think to a certain extent, those are still people that I look up to. And then people like um, Doze Green, who was one of my early mentors.
Mm.
Um, people like Ramel Z, Iconoclast business, like people that would come in and really change the face of things and give you different equations and different mathematics to process the world through. Someone like Dondi, who's probably my favorite visual artist of all time, favorite graffiti artist of all time, Dondi, who was able to bring pure style and flavor in a way that was no one had ever seen before.
Crazy.
Von Bodie, like they were just it's a lot of there are a lot of people that really inspired me. But yeah, like as far as idolizing, it's a tough one these days. As you get older and you start to see that nobody's perfect, and
Yeah.
people are complex. Um,
Yeah.
it's definitely one of those things that has changed a little bit, but the people I just named are still people that really heavily influence me and people that I still look up to. And there are a lot more people than that as well, but those
For
are
sure.
people for sure.
I noticed though that a lot of them weren't from the music genres. That was more specific to the art. And I can't help but think that the reason why idols are so hard to pin down is because they've had to play really open to social media. Like, I guess a 15-year-old me would just love to know anything of what Slash was about, but I kind of like the mystique, and a lot of graffiti writers hold that mystique. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. The crews were crazy, even in LA, because, you got gang politics and all kind of things. And you would end up in a crew and it would have people from rival gangs in it. And, you'd have a Rasta dude from off of Crenshaw in the crew. And then you might have like a Sharp, like a skinhead against racial prejudice in the crew. And then two dudes that'd be considered cholos in the group. And, it would just be, a surfer. Like everybody would be in the crew because you didn't really know who was who. Like you would see the name, you go to a yard or somewhere and see the name up, and you'd be like, "That's dope." And then you meet him, it's like, "That's you?" Like, word. And so you get, the graffiti crews were like some of the most honest families ever because, they weren't. It was really about like we're here, we're connected through style, and you're my brother, you're my crew member, and then that was that. Like, and even still to this day, like it's some of the most authentic relationships
100%.
in what I would consider to be hip hop are in the graffiti crews. So that's a big part of what raised me. And again, like just understanding that gave me a different approach to making music and who I was talking to. I wasn't talking to who the media said I was talking to. I already knew because I was out in the streets, like, okay, this is who I'm talking to and this is what they want to hear. So it was skaters, it was gang members and graffiti artists and
Yeah.
all kind of people at the same time were all there's that common thread and they loved it. And you look at the old skateboard videos and you see like NWA stickers and Public Enemy stickers as much as Beastie Boys, anything else, and
It's all
so
part
it's
of the
crazy. Yeah.
social commentary, is it? Again.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, when you dig down, you have like a lot of people expressing some of the same energy, the same angst, the same frustration, the same anger, the same whatever the case is,
Yeah.
but just finding different ways to do it. And at a certain time, you had an appreciation of the fact that we're all working toward a common goal of bettering the world we live in, and we just bring different spices to the table. And I
Mm.
think that that's something that is really important. And I really loved growing up in that space. It wasn't about
Yeah.
just making fusion stuff necessarily and saying, okay, we can do both of these things. Let's mash them together. It was about being able to stand next to somebody that didn't look like you, that didn't sound like you, and you
Yeah.
appreciate what they're doing and they appreciate what you're doing. And maybe there's a little bit of cross pollination or something, some little spice of one gets to the other, whatever. But ultimately, it's just about respect, and that's how you expand the world. Like you just or expand
Yeah.
your community.
Yeah, totally. And people respond to that, not just fans, but artists as well. It's that
Yeah,
authenticity. Like I don't get a feeling that Rucker assimilates. He doesn't try to be. Like I think a lot of when you've walked it so far, and I think that's why artists respond when you collaborate with them. I mean, you've worked with some really big artists, but I think they know, that there's a guarantee sign. And I don't think you force you. I don't get the feeling you force your career. I just think you're part of the landscape.
I think so, and I think a lot of that again comes from being a graffiti artist first. Like I don't, I like to put my work out there.
Yeah,
I like to let it talk. I don't necessarily need to be a celebrity. I don't need to be in the spotlight. As a graffiti artist, growing up, that was the last thing you wanted was to be for you to personally to be in the spotlight. You want your
yeah,
work to run on everything, but as far as you as an individual,
mm,
like you're happy to walk by and smile to yourself as other people are like, look at that, oh that's crazy, or you see a picture of it and you're like, they don't know that's me, so coming from that mentality, like my ego is fine. Like I don't necessarily need to feel the need to feed my ego and go chase fame and whatever the case is. Like I if I have something to say, I say it. If I don't,
yeah,
then I don't. I don't make records just to make records. Like that I haven't made like an album in a long time just because I've been just observing and charging up and working on other things, other challenges.
yeah.
But I can very easily just go make I'm back in the studio right now working on some things just because I feel
Fantastic,
charged up.
banging.
Yeah, I feel charged up. Yeah, so and when the time is right, I'll come back and bring you something to talk about as far as that's concerned.
Come
But
on,
yeah, I don't really trip too much, man. I like to work, and coming from an era where everybody did a little bit of everything. I was never the
yeah,
best b-boy, to be honest. I was never the best dancer. I was never the best beatboxer, but I dabbled in everything. It was
yeah,
because everybody did. Everybody. If you're a rapper, you still tagged a little bit. You still,
mm,
even if you didn't go get seriously busy, you still messed around a little bit. Like
mm-hmm,
if you're a DJ, you still wanted to have a nice tag to sign stuff or whatever to hit up the
yeah,
bathroom wall at the gig you're playing or
yeah.
whatever. Like it was
Or back
just
of the
that
record,
that
that sort
era
of shit.
for sure. So I just come from that, and I think that's where the authenticity comes from, which is that I'm not trying too hard. Like I do my best, but I don't try too hard, and
No.
I think that's what it comes down to. Like doing, I enjoy expressing myself. I enjoy art. I enjoy creating, and however I feel led to do that at the particular time, I want to do that at the highest level. But I don't just
Mm,
consider myself just a rapper or just anything else. Like, I've worked in all types of different spaces and places and with all types of people behind the scenes, in front of the scenes,
yeah.
everything from performing events to to throwing events, and still to this day the same thing.
That's fantastic, brother. You moved out of Los Angeles, right? You're kind of on the outskirts now. Is that right?
Yeah, I had to get out to the desert, man, a little bit, like just to clear my mind.
Wow.
Yeah, I still get to LA all the time. I mean, I'm only an hour and a half away, so I'm in
But it's
LA all
better
the
this way,
time.
man. You know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That side
But
of the
I
mainland.
enjoy it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been it's been a few years, and it's better for me. So
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, I don't need to be in the mix. If I show up someplace, I'll show up there, but I don't need to in my mind feel like, okay, I'm only a few minutes away from where the party is. Like
Yeah.
that's not where I want to be. So
No,
like I'll go there when it's time to go party. I'll go to the party, but I don't need to live in party adjacent. You know what I'm saying? Like
Real
I'll go there
talk.
when I need to go there. Yeah.
Real talk. Well, the scene is still thriving out in LA, and it's just fantastic that you're here present, killing it, and gracing us with your presence on the podcast, Rakaa. You've been a friend for a long time, crew, and more. Really appreciate that, my brother.
No, I appreciate you. I appreciate the invitation. I really love what you're doing. Like someone like yourself, who's such an important part of the culture, that has made their mark in multiple elements or aspects of the culture. Someone that is an ambassador, a true ambassador, building bridges around the world, inviting people to share their stories and be heard, and keep the community connected. You're doing very, very important work, and I appreciate you, man. Plus, you're one of the coolest cats I know. So, salute to you as well. And yeah, we've done it. I'm from touring together to just being in the same spaces to bumping into each other at festivals or at shows to social media,
Yeah.
whatever the case is, man. I really appreciate you and the invitation to be a part of this. And shout out to my whole Dilated People's family. Shout out to my C2D crew, Create to Devastate crew.
Woo!
Shout out to the world famous Beat Junkies, Expansion Team Sound System, and everybody making moves, man. It's a tough time for everybody. Everyone's dealing with it. Well, for almost everybody. Whenever it's tough for somebody, somebody's winning.
Yeah, of
But
course.
yeah, just make sure that you stay connected to your community. Make sure you stay connected to your people. I don't know, depending on when you hear this, the world might be spinning backwards, Bizarro style, or we might be back on track. Who knows? But
Yeah.
for people that are listening to this right now, it's more important than ever that you really stay connected with your community, support each other, support the arts, support creativity, and support people that are really pushing forward positivity. We need that.
Oh God, if that's one hell of a Jerry Springer sign off, that top drawer, bro. Like that's the best sign off I've had in a while, because I tell you what, it's so important to get our message across. This time in the world, and we know, it's not an isolated situation. There's a lot of things going on outside of the US. A lot of crazy things going on around the world, and like sometimes it can feel really on top. You don't know, how can we help? What's going to happen? I mean, it's all these sorts of questions. Social media is the thing that's underpinning all of us and feeding us all this information. It's another podcast, but the main thing is we stay positive and stay healthy, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, just remember that, fear is a weapon, frustration is a weapon, anxiety is a weapon. These are all things that can be weaponized and used against people, to confuse and to keep people distracted. Ultimately, we're all here on this bubble together, man. We're sharing this rock flying through space, or whatever the case may be. So, just be good to each other, and continue to support the creative energy, and continue to support this show, my man Killa Kela.
Yeah,
you know what
brother.
I mean? Like that's
love. And we'll be there when the new album comes out, man. We'll be ready with bells on.
Absolutely. Let's call this part one.
We got it. Consider it done, Rakaa. My brother. Killa Kela podcast, out of fashion. That's how we do it over here. Big shout to Rakaa, Dilated. And hey, listen, more podcasts to come. As I always say, crime don't pay, but neither do they. Don't you talk to one and I wouldn't, and you stay lucky, people. Nice one, Rakaa.